Welcome to the Sparky Coach podcast. This platform was built by Sparkies for Sparkies. We simply exist to make business owners more profitable, or businesses more profitable and more predictable. So we want to work with people that work hard because we love working hard too, that work smart because you got to be on top of the business, people that are kind because no one likes a dickhead. Am I right? People who want results because that's what we're here for, right? And people who want to be part of a like-minded community. So if you're interested in hearing more about the platform, please reach out and enjoy the podcast. All right, Sparky Coach Pod, Crowy here with Cam.
What's up? What's up?
What's up? Look at yourself in the mirror and say, what's up? In the loudest voice you can. I remember I got caught singing Hanson, If Only. You remember that song?
Ooh, yeah. I was a big fan of Mbop.
Yeah, great. Oh, I'm a big fan of Hanson, actually, to be honest. I don't mind the old pop. And I think I was 17, 18 on my red piece. There's a group of hot chicks. I don't know if I was embarrassed or stoked, but hey, you got to own where you're at in life and business and just plow forward from there. If you like Hanson, so be it. It is what it is. A bit of a contrast to the old Offspring and Blink that we talk about regularly, but hey, a bit of J-Lo in your life never hurt anyone. Now, talking today about backcharging employees. Do you backcharge employees? And also, what does backcharging employees and the Rolling Stones have in common? Driving to school this morning, beautiful, past some cows and paddocks on the way to school. Beautiful little school we go to, and we love listening to the Stones, or just love it. Childhood memories, core memories, but just quality music. And listening to, you can't always get what you want, but if you try sometimes, you might find you get what you need. That was my best Mick Jagger impersonation. Not as good with the hips or the ladies as he was, or the men, actually, probably for that matter, probably somewhere in there. But going into this, you can't always get what you want, but if you try sometimes, you just might find you get what you need. So a couple of situations recently, chatted to a member last week and a couple of weeks ago, and it's actually quite a regular question. Do you backcharge your employees? Classic example, they left their drill in a roof, they left their torch in a roof. There's a callback that was negligence. What was the situation last week? There was a car crash, which is not necessarily backcharging, but maybe on costing, and just lots of different things. Any reasons you can think that would come up, or have you had anyone ask?
They'd like foot through a roof, lost material, damaged material. Yeah, those sorts of things, like put a screw through the classic one, too long a screw through cabinetry, so it pops out on the other side. So then obviously, depending on the 2-pack, or if it's a veneer style finish, or like even just a Laminex style, and it pops. Those sorts of things, I think,
plenty of reasons. Yeah,
and I think also too, like, I just want to say, like, if you've never made a mistake on the job in your life, like, you're lying. I'm gonna say you're lying.
Yeah, and if anyone's watching this on Spotify or YouTube, I am actually drinking broth. I'm on a broth diet, and I am on my high horse about it. I will challenge what you're eating because it's been 6 days, and that's what you do, right? You just judge everyone. No, I'm kidding. But it's so interesting because there's a couple of different things.
Over to my new Instagram page.
Yeah. I'm now a wellness influencer. And don't look at my shirtless body. But just Photoshop myself. But it's super interesting because there's a real ethical line here. Firstly, I think you said the best. We've all made mistakes. I slipped through a ceiling, and when I was a first year apprentice, I think, and the builder actually yelled at me, and I cried, which is that's what you do, right? You cry. Tough guys cry. And it's okay to cry, but boys don't cry, but they do cry sometimes. That's the Cure song. But I remember, and I reversed into a Jaguar in my third year. We were doing this work. Shout out to Guy and Ben from Opal Lighting in Tarrant Point. So we're doing this lighting shop, right? And they did this showroom in Tarrant Point. And I was leaving and reversed out. So it was reversed 45-degree parking, nose in, both sides. So I reversed out too far. This Jaguar, I don't know if it was as long as a bus, but let's just blame the length of the Jaguar at this point. Reversed into that. Went in, I called my boss straight away, and Dave, and I was like, I've hit the Jaguar. And Ronnie was his dad, which was, I guess, his boss, like together, handing it over, father and son combo. He was like, he's hit the Jag. And then I heard him sort of calm down, and he was like, it's okay, we'll work it out. And I was like, I'm so sorry. Like, I'll pay for anything. Yeah, I just feel so bad. And then I had to go in and tell Ben, who Guy runs Opal Lighting now, but Ben's his dad, told Ben, and I think I was actually crying. There's a bit of a common denominator here. When I make a mistake, I just cry, try
Like
and
a puppy dog.
try and shift the blame. And I told Ben, and I was so sorry, and he just smiled and it happens. Don't worry about it. And that's the interesting thing, right? Because the biggest problem in someone's day is the biggest problem with their day. Like if he's had people not pay and he's got to get a whole bunch of work done, all this kind of stuff completed, someone putting a scratch on your Jaguar is probably the least of your worries at that point. So anyway, he was super cool. They worked it out between themselves, and then then a workers' comp situation, I put a speedball through my fingers, 2 fingers, and tendon, artery, nerve in both. I was in this plastic cast, looked like a bit of a periscope for 12 weeks, and there's no ongoing ramifications, but workers' comp claim. And that was actually pretty handy because workers' comp, I don't know how they do it now, but they used to pay 95% of your wage from last year, and we just so happen to have quite a good wage. But this is why it's so important to you can take owner drawings all you want until something goes wrong. So you want to be making sure you're paying yourself a market wage and taking your profit out, once a month or something like that. It's incredibly important to get that back end structured, but that's not the topic for today. The topic is back charging. So we all make mistakes. Any mistakes you can think of, Cam, that you've done, even on the gas plant, you've ever...
Couple. No, never made a mistake in my life. No. So one, I used screws too long. I reckon I was like a first year. We're doing a fit out of a shop fit out of a travel agency, and heaps of under desk power and data, and just grabbed the wrong screws and plugged them through. So they punched through they went through the other side. So they popped all Laminex along it was every third one sort of thing.
Is there any worse?
Lucky there was no LED lighting back in those days, so it wasn't we actually got away with it. We just got some.
Well, you could unscrew it, and it would almost
unscrewed it, and so it didn't chip it off. It just popped them forward, and then so the cabinet maker, he was like, "Oh, this is too easy. Just some PVC glue and some wood chips, and you just mix it in, put it together, and then we retracted them back in and pushed in. You couldn't even notice. I think we went back a few months later, and it was all people sat there to talk to them, and so and it was all scuffed from people's feet sort of thing. But yeah, that one. But I've had instances of roof tiles being left off. I've had instances so these are just involvements of people occurrences. I've had a popped roof just walking through the ceiling on a few occasions, and that's really no one. If I'm going to blame anyone, I'm going to blame probably the construction of the home more than anything. That's why
the tradie I learned from Trent, I don't know what he's doing now. I learned from Trent and Ian. Trent would always say a good tradie just knows how to cover their mistakes more. And it was just kind of funny because it's especially the trade world, when you're dealing with incredibly subjective. I'm not saying there's no two jobs the same, but there's lots of jobs a little bit more different than the same. Every house is probably a little bit different unless you're doing full-blown specky homes. But coming around to it, we've all made mistakes, so acknowledge that. Secondly, probably a bunch of us are back charging stuff right now, so to speak. And I think there is a bit of an ethical line there. So for instance, if your tradie or apprentice sleeps in and they get there at 8, there's probably an element that, hey, just stay back and make that up an hour. You could class that as back charging, holistically, ethically, whatever line you want to draw. So we're not erring on either side of the line here. And then, or maybe they leave a torch or a drill in the roof. And I think there is a difference between, I don't know, this is where my head goes. There is a difference between turning up half hour, 45 late and working back and leaving a torch in the roof to a callback or a crash car. I just feel like there's a distinct difference at that point. Or, hey, this was specifically on the job notes and you didn't do it. There was this instance last week where I think they had to change was job notes clear as day, main switch changeover, as well as that circuit. Person didn't do it, and it's like, well, now you got to go back. So there's probably a line there, and we're probably happy with some, but not happy with others. But this is where I think there is a line, and the situation last week of someone knocked a canopy off or something, did damage to a car, right? And it was super interesting because he's like, well, does he pay for that because he offered? And I just said, I'm personally not comfortable with that. I feel like if they were only at work, if they only made that mistake because they were at work, then that is the employer's fault. And I feel like the more you can shoulder like that, I never backcharged anyone for a callback or a mistake. I did, however, which is something that I've reflected on a lot. There was a third-year apprentice parked in a loading zone where there was plenty of other parking around, and he sent me the fine he got. And I was like, I was quite early in business, maybe 3 years in. And I said, hey, that's not my fault. There was plenty of other parking around. I would have paid for your parking. You didn't even ask me to park in a loading zone. So that's sort of on you. But I often look back at that stage of business I was in. I was young in business, so a little bit immature. I was also not making the money I thought I was. And you fast forward to me now. As a highly mature 41-year-old, I would pay for that. I wouldn't pay for 3 of them, but I'd pay for it. Maybe I would. We're making money. We're all good. I'm not stressed about that side of things. So I'll probably be like, you know what? Hey, don't do that again, but I gotcha. Because I think referencing the Rolling Stones, you can't always get what you want. What do you want? You want people to own their mistakes. You want people to pay you what they owe you, And I think if they're only in that position because they're working, then that mistake was because they were working. Whether they crashed the car, they got to drive to site, whether they cut out something in the wrong spot. Someone the other day had a 100 mil cutout down they cut out, it wasn't like a classic 89, 91 mil. It was like cut out 100 mil when it should have been 60, like just full cooked it. Just an absolute cooking. And
the flange ain't going to cover that.
Yeah. Actually, this is funny. At I don't want to say whose house it is, but at this $10 million house, no, $10 million build. So not house, $10 million build. There was, I don't actually know what they call it, but it's like a grade 5 setting. So when they set the whole ceiling, so you can't actually ever see a joint in any light.
Oh, yeah, I know what you mean.
Everything. I think it might actually be grade 5 or grade 6. Steve Hinton from Hinton Linings, if you're listening, give me a shout out and give me a text. Steve, actual OG bodyboarder, spinner in the pit back in the day, a couple of L rollers, maybe a couple of ARSs back in the day. Anyway, pushing forward away from ARSs, we are. So he cut out I can't remember the exact size. It was obscure size, cut out too big, and I had to take it to Opal Lighting. Shout out to the boys again, 2 mentions in one pod, and they actually put an extended flange on it. I had to tell the client, and the client was actually super chill about it. He's like, mate, they're not going to notice that, extra 15 mil flange here. Like it should have been thin trim, but it was a bit wider. Didn't even notice at the end of the day. It was towards the back, but people make mistakes. And I remember just being like, I think it's more embarrassing, but I think you want to encourage a culture of talking up and not punishing. Now, the thing, back to the Rolling Stones reference, you can't always get what you want, but if you try, sometimes you get what you need. You can't always get what you want, which is like, you owe me for this, you owe me for that. But what do you want in a business? You want to attract and retain excellent staff members. You can't punish people for trying. People make mistakes. What do you want? You want an excellent culture that retains staff members. If you're going to punish everyone for a mistake they made, you're going to see that culture just starting to fall apart. Piece by piece, bit by bit, little by little. And that's what you actually want in business. Well, that's what you need in business. So sometimes you got to see the forest for the trees. A really clear way is is this going to matter in 5 years time? Some mistakes, they're really serious, like a safety mistake. But you can't punish people, in my opinion, for making a mistake or something they've got to, that you're paying them to do, that they're only there because you're paying them to do. And then this guy was like, well, how do I get him to own responsibility? So this guy crashed the car, he's offered to pay. How do I get him to own it? And once again, valid point. I was with one of my friends the other day. We're at this school gathering and he's got an older kid, and the kid threw what kids do, they get carried away. And this 12-year-old kid threw, I don't know if it was a rock, but threw a stained glass window at a church, just kids being kids. And Well, that's
It was a
actually
good.
not
It was a
that.
good shot. It was a
That's
great
pretty
shot.
bad. That's not really kids being kids. That's like a bit more extreme than kids being kids. But he threw a rock, broke the window, and my friend who's a dad, like brought his son to the whatever, I don't know, pastor, priest, something like that, and they paid for it. And the son paid for it out of his own money. And that's like, so I get the accountability, responsibility, but I think the employer-employee relationship is a little bit different. And he's like, what do I do if it happens again then? And I was like, that's where you've got to draw the line. If you're making 2 or 3 mistakes consistently, or 4 mistakes, 5 mistakes, is that the right person? Is that the right fit? It also goes to highlight the other big thing for me is like you want to build a culture of, honesty, openness, acceptance. It's okay to make mistakes. Read any book, read the Netflix book, No Rules. Everyone in any industry at any level makes a whole lot of mistakes, right? A business owner the other day I sat with full cooked this quote hard. And he was like, that's my mistake. Does he get punished? Does he get fired for that? But it's interesting. So he was like, well, what do I do if it keeps happening? I'm like, well, that's when you've got to have the conversation. Do you just amicably part ways? Fast and the Furious 7 style, Paul Walker goes left, Vin Diesel goes right into the sunset. You don't have to die on a hill with these people, but maybe you do. And it also goes to highlight how important it is to run a hyper profitable business, or the most profitable business that you can run, skinning the cat, however you skin the cat. Because when money's tight, you will take that out on people. When money's tight on a job and someone cuts something out at the wrong spot and you get back charged from the builder or like whatever, or when you make that mistake. And it's so interesting to reference the smaller jobs carry the greater responsibility. So if you ever wonder why the smaller jobs should hit huge to big margins, it's because you can do a $2,000 job, 3 lights over the island bench, and make a $5,000 mistake by cracking the island bench, by dropping something on the floorboards, by dragging the oven out and leaving a scratch. So the smaller jobs actually carry the largest risk because there's not enough profit in there to facilitate a mistake. So a $1,000 job might have, let's say, hypothetically, $300 profit. If you make a mistake, the reality of that mistake being above $300 is incredibly high. If you're on a $300,000 job with $90,000 profit, that $500 or $1,000 or $1,500 mistake has less of an impact to your overall profit, because 30% of 300 is very different to 30% of 1,000. So incredibly different. So it's super interesting. But yeah, I think I would err on the side of the employees. As soon as if you keep erring on the side of employee, I think that's your pathway forward for good culture. And if someone's just full cooking it hard repetitively, yeah, have the conversation. Just talked for like 15 minutes straight, but it has been on my heart for a while. What do you think, Cap?
Yeah. So, I mean, one thing I want to pick up there is the example of the cutout of the downlight, or too large, those sorts of ones there. I think you need to address why it happened, because I'm going to say more often than not, it's probably an opportunity to check yourself as the business owner. And I'm going to say there's probably an element of you were too busy at that particular time, so you didn't actually get that information that was required in the right location sent to the team. It's like, there's a chance that they may have asked, oh, hey, what are these light fittings in this location? You're like, oh yeah, they're just a 90 without checking it, or it's just the same. You didn't actually spend the time at the beginning. And I think this is, Crowe bangs on about it a lot, and I probably not quite as much, but I'm very passionate about it too. But like, the money is made and lost in the office. So let's just say you've won the job, you've been successful in getting it. Why are you now waiting until cutout to get the light specifications to the team on site? Like, if you've won the job, use that opportunity and window there to get all the specifications sorted out, sent across, signed off, approved from the beginning. Because then I was actually chatting with someone the other day, one of our members. He didn't realize that these particular light fittings had a 16-week lead time on them, and fit off is in 2 weeks. And so he's like panicking around it. So, but this is what happens when you get too busy, because you're not fronting the job when it should be organized. And this is when mistakes start to happen. It's like, didn't organize the correct light fitting, so you didn't know that the client wanted to change it to the other style, the D1s in the house. So these sorts of, I think a lot of the time, if you reflect back on it all, it's like, hey, I'm somewhere in the middle of this. So I've always looked at
Well,
that's a really easy one to prevent.
yeah, that's also what you just said then about the downlights for 16 weeks. That's also when you get caught fronting the 100 grand, 10 grand, 7 grand for the lights, when you could be like, if you're, let's face it, if you're 2 weeks out from a fit off that you should have ordered these lights 4 months ago, you're probably not drawing that to the attention of everyone. But if you finish roughing and you're like getting organized and you go, hey, Cam, we've got these downlights, they're 50 grand, 30 grand. The 16-week lead time. I need the money paid up front so I can pay them now, or 50% deposit, and the rest
Whatever the requirement is, yeah.
whatever. So now someone else is fronting the money. So it's crazy to think, and invoicing is the same. When you get behind on something, usually you absorb the collateral damage. Arnold Schwarzenegger quote, right there. But usually you absorb the collateral damage. Crap, is that Van Damme or Schwarzenegger?
Continue. I'll get back to you.
I'll continue on. Now I can't continue on. Someone in the car's driving, just going, collateral damage, Schwarzenegger.
No.
Schwarzenegger.
Arnie.
Yeah, perfect. Okay,
correct.
Cool. Now I can move on.
I think there's definitely a chopper involved.
Yeah, there's always a helicopter somewhere. Or he jumps out of a plane in Commando, somehow magically 400 meters up, lands in knee-deep reeds and just walks away, right? Classic Red Bull activity right there. So anyway, it's crazy because, so often people are disorganized and they cop the financial damage out of that, and it's just not right. And it's just like a little bit. All you had to do was look at the plans, check with the supplier, probably 2 emails and an hour,
and done.
And you're done, right? So crazy. Another
thing that organizational side of things too, and then generally what's happening is you're probably simmering away, reaching to boiling point. So like a small breeze throws you out and you may act irrationally. It's probably when you yell at people or carry on like a bit of a dickhead, if I'm being sort of honest around it. And this is where the other issues lie around it. So the other thing on that then is I then look at it also too around, this is what you're communicating now. So let's take a step back, and you've given the information, you organize. So you're communicating the expectations. Right. So I think this is really important as well, is that you can't just assume everything within your team that you have and as you build them out. So like I'm going to reference the parking fine, for example, in there. It's like, okay, guys, we're on this particular job, or hey, guys, parking, right? Your responsibility, right? There's apps now and all sorts of things that you can utilize and set up with your company vehicles and all that sort of stuff. So it's all linked. So it's really straightforward. But set the expectation, make it clear to be like, hey guys, look, you can do these things in the vehicle. I don't care if you're driving on the weekend. This is what you do with fuel. If you need to do this, so make it like, have the conversation with them and let them know what it is. So you set the boundaries and what the expectations are. It's like, hey, when we're working in these areas, yeah, you're going to have to pay for parking. That's totally fine. This is how you do it. I've given you all the information and all the ways around it. If you choose not to do that, that's on you, right? So whereas if there's a blurred area around it, well, then you've only got yourself to then come back and be like, oh, well, actually, I didn't set the app up. I didn't explain to them. I didn't really tell the green first year to be like, who has no idea that, you have to pay for parking at all. So those sorts of things, I think, are really, really important about communicating where the expectations lie and what you need to do. So like if there's a mistake as well, hey, we want to know about it as soon as possible, right? And then I think if you breed that culture within your team and react to it in a way that is positive, then people are happy to come forthcoming. Whereas if someone told you how, and you're like, you're a dickhead, I can't believe you did that, and you carry on, it's like, well, why would they come to you and tell you next time? Like, it's just that they're going to cover their tracks or try and hide all that sort of stuff. So I'm really big on communicating where the expectations lie in those sorts of things. The last point I probably want to make on it all is that there's an element of risk in business, right? And there's an element of reward associated with it, right? In business, you take out insurances. In business, you take the risk, but you also get the reward. So I think you need to understand that nobody deliberately crashed the vehicle. nobody deliberately like parachuted through the ceiling because they're like, I don't really feel like walking 20 meters back to the manhole. I'm just going to, exit stage through the ceiling right here. So I think having an understanding that no one meant to, if things are continually happening, well, then that's when the conversation needs to occur. But again, look at the expectation. Like, you can't, there's a drug and alcohol policy within the company. You can't drive the company vehicle. If they're blind and driving the company and the vehicle and crash it, well, it's clearly on them. Like, so I think a lot of people avoid having maybe an awkward or a tough conversation with their team or setting the expectations around it. And then it's like, I'll deal with that later, but then get angry because they didn't deal with it, but their anger is projected on the employee. So, the risk and reward of doing business is that there's going to be things that cost money. That's the reality of it all. That's why you have insurances. It's why you also reap the benefits when things go well. So just in that note sort of thing, it doesn't really sit well with me if you're putting the blame onto someone else. I think it's always a learning and a conversation that can be had with it. I think it's completely different to the point of like let's just say they left their tool bag and drill in the roof. It's like, man, I actually don't care how you get it, but you just got to figure that part out yourself. Like, I'm not going to, go there, get it sorted, but that's on you. Like, and they need to learn that part of it all. But like, if they were going back to fix something up, it's like, okay, cool. That's some mistakes happened here. Why did it happen? The duct was put up with double-sided tape, for example, instead of like a few screws. It's like, okay, well, why did you do that? And it could be really simple. It's like, oh, well, that's just how I've always done it. It's like, okay, cool. Who taught you that? Okay, sweet. We don't do it that way here because of those particular reasons. So it's about having a conversation, addressing it, and just moving on with it. So that's just sort of my
and there's like, I just think it's really hard to have black and white rules on gray areas. So let's just say someone leaves their drill in a roof and they went to a job at 6 p.m. for you and worked till 10 p.m. and got your major client's power back on. Like you can't just have black and white rules and be like, I think you need to be human. And this is why policies are great, but you got to read the room sometimes. And it's, this brings up so many questions and so many gray areas. Like, was it different if it's an employee versus a subcontractor? And I think 40 chatting to him. I can't remember if it was on a pod or off camera. That every mistake is an opportunity for the betterment of the business. So basically, look where the pain is. That's where the problem is. Fix the problem. So it might be, I don't know, we cooked the cutout because the ruffian didn't have a plan completed where to cut out by the end of it. Okay, we need to improve that. So every pain point is an opportunity for was a highlighter highlighting where the improvement needs to get to, right? And there's some mistakes and there's some stuff you can fix, but I think you've just got to absorb full responsibility as a business owner. And I think what you said before as well, like the insurances, yeah, this is why you have insurance, and this is why it's so important. So if you're using a subcontractor, make sure that they have insurance. And but every mistake can be an opportunity for maximum blessing. So I'd probably do another pod actually on employee versus subcontractor. That would be incredibly interesting, I feel, on that. But final wrap up, what is it?
Learn from the mistakes that you make, but then actually learn from them. So like, it's not just about, oh yeah, we've learned from that mistake. It's like, okay, well, how can you better it? How can you make the business better? How can you communicate things better? What can you put in place? So there's an understanding and an expectation, so that like when you go to the next rough-in, that it's like, hey, we don't have the sizes of these particular fittings at the moment. So your team's coming back to you as well. So it becomes then it's like, oh, I've dropped the ball there. Okay, so but understand, but it's a collaborative effort then on all fronts. So there's an expectation and understanding. It's like, well, this is just the way that, Smith and Weston Electrical do it. It's like setting the standard to move forward to be better.
Smith and Weston, I would have preferred Lord Voldemort, which I still think is a great name. I don't believe it's taken. Imagine like the pitch you could have for Lord Voldemort. You pretty much service and maintenance only, aren't you, with that slogan? Yeah.
I think so.
Anyway,
Enjoy
continue
your
on.
day.
Have the best day ever. See you
Bye.
soon. That's a wrap on another podcast. Whatever you're doing, don't be too busy to stop and check if you're making money. And above all else, you know the rules. Be kind. See you soon.